The What Works Clearinghouse, or WWC, offers several types of resources to help educators make evidence-based decisions. The WWC is an investment of the Institute of Education Sciences, the independent research arm of the U.S. Department of Education. The WWC is proud to be a trusted source of high-quality research on education activities, strategies, and interventions for educators, administrators, and policymakers. This video provides an overview of the intervention effectiveness ratings that the WWC uses in its intervention reports. These reports summarize high-quality findings on a given program, practice, or policy in education and how it affects student outcomes or other outcomes relevant to education. The ratings in each intervention report provide WWC users with valuable information about the research quality and the underlying findings of the research on that intervention. This video focuses on the ratings currently used on the WWC website under version 4.1 of the Procedures Handbook. The website displays intervention reports dating from 2005 to the present. Different reports may have been prepared under different versions of the Procedures Handbook. The WWC conducts a systematic and comprehensive search for research studies on an intervention, reviews study quality and findings to identify well-designed and well-implemented impact studies, and summarizes the findings that meet WWC standards. The WWC provides separate effectiveness ratings for each outcome domain for which there is high-quality evidence on a given intervention. The version 4.1 Procedures Handbook includes 5 potential effectiveness ratings: positive effects, potentially positive effects, uncertain effects, potentially negative effects, and negative effects. The rating depends on the number of studies that meet WWC standards, the sign and statistical significance of the average effect across these studies, and the extent to which findings in the outcome domain meet WWC standards with or without reservations. Positive effects means that there is evidence across multiple studies that the intervention had a positive effect on outcomes in that domain. At least 2 studies must meet WWC standards. The average effect from these studies must be statistically significant and positive, and the combined estimate must be from findings that primarily meet WWC standards without reservations. Potentially positive effects means that there is statistically significant evidence that the intervention had a positive effect on outcomes in that domain, but the evidence is not as strong as with the positive effects rating. Either there was only one study that met WWC standards, or the combined estimate is from findings that primarily meet WWC standards with reservations. Uncertain effects means that there is no discernible evidence that the intervention had either a positive effect or a negative effect on outcomes in that domain. This happens when the average effect from the study or studies that meet WWC standards is not statistically significant. Users should be aware that intervention reports prepared under older versions of the Procedures Handbook may use different terminology. For example, previous versions of the Procedures Handbook refer to mixed effects or no discernible effects instead of uncertain effects. Potentially negative effects means that there is some statistically significant evidence that the intervention had a negative effect on outcomes in the corresponding domain. As with the potentially positive effects rating, there could be only one study that meets WWC standards, or the combined estimate could be from findings that primarily meet WWC standards with reservations. Negative effects means that there is evidence across multiple studies that the intervention had a negative effect on outcomes in the corresponding domain. The WWC only provides this rating when at least 2 studies meet WWC standards. The average effect is statistically significant and negative, and the combined estimate is from findings that primarily meet WWC standards without reservations. This example shows that there were potentially positive results for literacy achievement and uncertain effects for social studies achievement. An intervention report's effectiveness ratings may be different for different domains depending on the evidence. To better understand how effectiveness ratings are used in practice, let's look at an example. Imagine that Janice is an administrator who needs to identify a literacy tutoring program for elementary students. she uses the WWC search process to locate the intervention report for Program A. Program A is a tutoring program aiming to improve outcomes in two domains for young readers: reading fluency and reading comprehension. The intervention report shows that Program A had positive effects on reading fluency. In this case, this rating means that the research findings demonstrate that students who participated in the program increased their ability to read text accurately, automatically, and with expression. Janice also sees that Program A had uncertain effects on reading comprehension. Uncertain effects means that there was no clear evidence that the intervention impacted reading comprehension. In this example, studies of Program A showed that participants increased their ability to process text and understand its meaning, reading fluency, but there was no discernible impact on reading comprehension. If Janice wishes to target students' skills in reading fluency for her tutoring program, Program A may be a good choice. However, if comprehension is a key priority, she may want to consider a different program. The WWC website also provides evidence tier designations for each outcome domain. The tiers indicate whether the research summarized in a particular domain meets the Department of Education's definitions of Tier 1, strong evidence, Tier 2, moderate evidence, or Tier 3, promising evidence. The evidence tiers are based on the WWC's effectiveness ratings and on additional sample size and multi-site sample requirements. To better understand how evidence tiers are used to characterize the strength of the evidence of each outcome domain in an intervention report, let's look at an example. Intervention reports may synthesize the outcomes found across several studies of the same intervention. The combined data may be assigned a different evidence tier than the one assigned to a single study included in the synthesis. This can get complicated, so let's break down how this can happen. For Outcome Domain 1, both Study A and Study B fall under Tier 1. Therefore, in the intervention report, this outcome domain receives a Tier 1 rating. For Outcome Domain 2, however, Study A had a Tier 2 rating and Study B had a Tier 3 rating. The resulting tier level for Domain 2 for the intervention report is a Tier 2. Aggregating one study with others may also produce what are known as countervailing effects, or evidence that shows the opposite effect from a single study's findings. If an intervention report shows that the intervention had negative effects or potentially negative effects in an outcome domain, the WWC will remove any Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 designation in that domain from the studies included in the synthesis. Be aware that, while evidence tiers are available on the WWC website, they are not included in all of the PDF versions of the intervention reports. If you have a PDF of an intervention report, you can visit the Reports page on the WWC website to see evidence tiers for each outcome domain. If you have more questions about effectiveness ratings and evidence tiers used by the WWC, please visit the Resources page on the WWC website and select the Evidence Tiers and Ratings section to see a list of related resources.